Greetings, everybody. Welcome to this month's High Rollers stream. This is the Meet the High Rollers, where you get to meet the people who support the channel at the very highest level. Most of them are, just wonderful souls with extra money, which I appreciate, and many of them are, of course, content creators themselves. In fact, today we have really just one high roller with us, somebody who does create content here on YouTube and on the other platforms as well. And I highly encourage you to follow this man. He's a wonderful, wonderful storyteller. So without further ado, we're going to get started with today's stream. And let's bring in StoryMan-Jack. How are you doing today?
I'm doing awesome today.
Fantastic. Really. Yeah, you. It's been a long time. I know you went through some hardship, but you're back at it. And I know that you produce some great material. You want to tell people what you actually do on your channel? Because I think that would be kind of inspiring for some.
So I do two things. Well, three things. Starting Tuesday night at 7 p.m. at Central Time, every 7 p.m., myself and my longtime best friend, who is also my writing partner, he helped me write my novel. We're going to be doing a story stream where the chat pretty much tells the story. We take suggestions, names, just whatever the chat comes up with as a story idea, and we'll write the story over the course of 2 hours. Out of that, what we're going to do is we're going to clip writing tips, because we get talking. I mean, if we get on the phone, we can talk for 4 hours without stopping or taking breaths. So we're going to do that, and so there'll be just the tips on there, writing tips on how we write. It's not necessarily the right way to write, but it's just how we do it. And then I tell stories of every genre. I have Christian fiction, I have horror, I have science fiction. I'd like to exploit, when you're a writer, when you're a storyteller, you're pretty much a philosopher, and you work these things out through your stories. Sometimes I have stories that the only purpose of the story is to resolve conflict within my own life, because it's very therapeutic. And that's why I like the short story format better than I like writing long form novels or something. And my goal with my channel is to inspire others to create great content. I mean, who cares about the writer's strike? They've given us nothing but junk for the past 10 years. There's been some good stuff out there, but it's like all the good writers disappeared and they hired all these woke activists to do the job instead. So we can create our own content. We can create our own version of Snow White. We can create those things and inspire others. If when I'm gone and I look down on the world, because hopefully I'm up there with the spirit in the sky, right? If one person says, hey, way back when this little YouTube guy taught me how to write and now I'm successful, that's the whole purpose, is to inspire others as much as tell stories.
That's true. Yeah, I mean, it's funny when you get started doing content creation, you may not necessarily plan for your growth or anything else, but as long as you're getting satisfaction and enjoyment out of what you're doing, I think that's the most important thing.
Well, for example, Drunk's here, Drunk 3PO's here,
yeah.
And I got his book, and it is amazing. I think every child should be read to with that book. I mean, it helps. I believe it would help with a lot of self-esteem issues. It kind of like, as somebody was making fun of him, and he goes, yeah, that's what they need is more estrogen. I'm like, dude, I would say the same thing about Ender's Game for every preteen or teenager out there. Everybody needs to be exposed to that content. It helps you grow as a person. You learn things. And Drunk did a terrific job. I can't wait for the next iteration of that.
Yeah, Jay's pretty extraordinary. I mean, there's
he's one of those 1 in a million people.
Yeah. If you get a chance to meet Drunk 3PO Jay, if you get a chance to meet him, you should, because your life will be better for it. So just a wonderful.
I hate saying community because we're just loosely affiliated, but between Nerdrotics and D-Day Cobra and all these folks that got us, most of us involved.
Right.
it is really a community of people that help one another out.
Yeah, I think a lot of people be surprised just how much back in the background you get a lot of help from people, or especially when you just are getting started.
And
So
sometimes all you need is encouragement.
yeah, that's very true. Very, very true. So it looks like my browser's frozen, so you'll have to bear with me. I can't get back to the screen we were on. So anyway, uh, uh, tell me what are you working on right now? Because I know we're coming up on your favorite month, which is October.
So I have a series of stories that I'm working on that are loosely affiliated. There's going to be 31 horror stories for Halloween. They will start October 1st. And the basic premise is so the first story is about a couple who elopes, and they end up in a really seedy motel that night. And just before they get settled in, the door opens, and you think it's a vampire. You think it's, and he tells them that he is the vampire. He's the one who made Dracula, kind of deal. And he takes his new wife. So the rest of the stories is about him chasing it down. And my idea is, as he grows over the years, because there'll be time in between the stories, he's hunting this down, and it turns out it wasn't a vampire at all. It was Lucifer himself. So I can bring in other characters and other things into these 31 stories and get very different subgenres in the horror field for those Halloween stories. So that's what I'm working on there. Tonight, sometime when I can get it recorded, the story of my near-death experience from August 4th will go up. It's called Heat. And it is based on what happened to me. And there's some spiritual element to it. And like I said, I could have hallucinated it, but I prefer to think not.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people will be impressed with that. But I love what you did last Halloween season and the one before. I mean, you and I've been around together for a long time, and I think everybody's going to appreciate what you do with the month of October. So if you're interested, the Halloween stories are a full month, or Jack tries to do a full month, and I've always enjoyed them. So
now, to exceed expectations,
yeah.
I have never actually gotten all 31 done. I think the most I've done is 22 before I burned myself out.
That's true.
So I got started a little early. I haven't recorded any of them. I've got about 10 or 15 written. I'm letting them sit so I can go back and edit them so they're a little better quality. But usually a good short story, it takes you about 8 to 10 weeks to write. And I'm going to try and produce one a day. So,
well, I'm really stoked, to be fair. So I hope you make it through all 30. I hope you make it through all 30 days, or 31 days, excuse me, of October. I think that'll be fantastic. I think everybody will enjoy it. And if you need voice actors, I'm sure some people here would volunteer to do some voice acting for you. So very good. But let's say hi to the chat, because there's a lot of folks in here. Obviously, we already mentioned Drunk 3PO. Michelle joined us here yesterday. Thanks, Michelle, for joining. John Sapola is just out shopping, listening to us. We've got Vulcan Lives Matter, or Vulcan Lives, whichever way you go about it. But it's great to see you. There's Philip M., who is a high roller, but he's not going to make it today. I hope you're recovering well, my friend. We appreciate you. We've got a few other folks popping in, like my buddy Captain Phantom Nerd. He's in the house. We've got my goodness, just a whole lot of folks like the Great Snafu, or Snafu, however you want to pronounce that, and just a wonderful smattering from across the planet. We got a Canadian in here. Randall Orser is here. Matt G is here. He's going to promote everything and everybody. We got Olaf Von S checking in from across the pond. Again, everybody from around the world. Another wonderful Canadian here. Morgan King, another high roller, not going to make it today. Again, I take responsibility. I take responsibility for everybody not being available today, because I did bring this up a little short. I kept telling everybody it was going to be Saturday, but I think I outsmarted myself, hoping to get it done early in the day, and I got more people, but it didn't work. Space Dave's here. Good to see you, Space Dave. Thanks for all the support and the amazing number of members you've given in the last few days. We appreciate that as well. I'm sure they do. And of course, I mentioned Vets Talking. Vets Talking recently hit 10K in record time. Amazing guy, wonderful channel, fun live streams. Just an absolutely awesome dude. And there's Drunk. So yeah, we got a lot of people. JB's Spooky Review, who's also a high roller, is not in here. For those of you who are high rollers and you're watching this later, again, we'll be doing this early in the month of September. So just keep that open. I will give you a full week's notice this time, with a time, so that we're not scrambling in the last 3 days to get it together. I got Cash here. This Cash is one of the most famous memed persons now. That it's funny. Got OC Dobbins out there. Griffin's here. What's up, Griffin? I see. Let's see. Chase is here. Chase in Texas. And we've got Stephen Gilly. What's up? High rollers. I love them too. Washington State is on fire again. Eesh, that's not good. Oh, man. I don't know. I know this. I know that I did a review on the Blue Beetle movie. Have you had a chance to see that?
No, I'm not going to. It's
well,
like,
there you go.
Well, that, I'm not boycotting Disney. We have Disney Plus for like Mickey Mouse Club for the baby.
Right.
But my view on Blue Beetle is they don't know what they're doing with DC. So I'm not investing in it yet.
Right.
I mean, I like the actor that plays the main character. I think he does a terrific and amazing job in Cobra Kai.
Yeah.
But I'm nostalgic too. I love Cobra Kai because I'm nostalgic. I mean, the original Karate Kid and the second one were my two favorite movies growing up, other than Star Wars.
The Karate Kid franchise is wonderful. It is truly, and I like what they were doing with Cobra Kai, but there's some elements in it that have me a little unsettled, and that's fine. But I think overall it's wonderful. Hey, look at that! It's the Capable Gentleman. Check out the Capable Gentleman's channel. That is somebody
absolutely.
who teach you how to be a gentleman. And
that's a great channel name too, by the way.
Oh yeah, I know. Yeah, and run by a great guy. I kind of know him too. FKHC 2005 is in the house. Great to see you. I'm glad you're able to listen for a few moments. But do check out the Capable Gentleman. I'm not kidding. This is.
I'll have to go and look at his.
This is a channel for gentlemen. So
the biggest problem I'm running in right now, I'm subscribed to so many people that it's hard to watch all their content.
Yeah, that's a good problem to have though, because there's not a lot else to watch out there in the world. So.
Oh, tell me about it. I have been watching. I need to catch back up. Strange New Worlds. Picard season 3 really got me back on the Star Trek train, and I know most of it was because of nostalgia. But I think if they do Star Trek Legacy, it will be in the vein of Voyager and the Next Generation, and I like 7, so I think if they can do Star Trek Legacy and they keep Terry on board, then it'll be a good show. But the tide's turning. We're still going to have a little woke stuff in just about everything we see. It's just the way it is.
I think that's a solid perspective. I think we're going to, and this, I try to warn people. I'm like, look, even if they stop doing it, you still got 3 to 5 years of this stuff in coming at you.
Well, not just that, they've warped our perception. You know what I mean? There is so much woke in everything we watch that even if we go back to a movie we saw in the 80s, we're going to get tripped up because we're going to say, oh, that's kind of woke, when we didn't notice it before. We're hypersensitized to it now. So you're gonna have to swallow a little bit of woke.
Well, and I think some of it too is that it's just been so pervasive, that we now see ghosts as well. I mean, and again, I did a review, and Philip, and thank you for your commentary on it. I did a review on the Blue Beetle, and there's messaging in it. It's not as heavy-handed. It has counter messaging in it that doesn't jive. I mean, that probably adds to the fact that the film just doesn't seem like fluid.
From the reviews and the things that I've seen about it, it seems like it was made for a specific demographic.
Maybe, but at the same time, I mean, it doesn't. It should be enjoyable for everybody. So.
Oh yeah, well that's the balance, right? And a lot of authors fail at that balance. But really, when people write things, they try to write them for themselves first, with the door closed. That's the way Stephen King does it. That's the way I learned to do it. Right. I write it for myself, and then when I think it's ready, I'll let my wife read it or my best friend read it, and they'll tell me what they think. Hey, this is too skewed one way. But you're never going to get the balance absolutely perfect.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But you do have to think about your audience. Just don't think about them when you're doing your first draft. Think about the story you want to tell. And then open the door, let people look at it, and they'll tell you, oh, this is like skewed way, and I don't understand this. Yeah. People you trust, you don't need yes man, you need somebody that's going to tell you the truth.
I'm with you. And interestingly enough, this is a comment that is timely, at least for me, because I watched TLDR this morning talking about, go woke, go broke. If to believe it or not, they did a video on this. I was watching that video this morning, and I don't 100% agree with the message, this particular message, but Stephen Gilly did provide it, and thank you for that. It's not necessarily the messaging itself that's the problem. It's how woke was used as an excuse for firing expensive, experienced people and replacing with college age. I think that's part of it. And again, I mean, I think that's an interesting perspective, but it's broader than that, because it's essentially institutionalized racism in and of itself, and sexism and ageism. I mean, they're literally institutionalizing against the anybody who's considered to be in a majority. So,
and not all woke people have bad intentions. What has happened is there's a lot of people with big hearts out there who have been co-opted and told things that are untrue, so that they kind of go crazy and overreact.
You're right.
Overproduce things.
You're right. And again, I did a video that cited specifically Rachel Zegler, because I wanted to take that issue from a different perspective. And I'm going to keep communicating this in every way that I can. I might even do a separate breakout video about it. But you're right. They've been educated into an ideology that is constantly reinforced because they've made everything political. And when you are forced to be engaged in politics all of the time, and it creates the tribalism that they're actually creating these political silos. If anybody doesn't believe that, I mean, you can just look at the research and the studies that have shown that to be true. And the fact that we know that if you are always politically engaged, you only tend to react with the emotional centers of your brain. That's all you're able to engage. So, but I mean, it's just the way it is. So, but I want to, while you're there with the background there, I just want to say, hey, Judicon, what's up? Judicon, it has been a minute, my friend. I hope you're doing well. But yeah, we got some interesting stories to get to. Wanted to say hi to Scott Westbrook. But just consider this, folks, is that, the Pew Research has been out there for over 30 years now, or coming up on 30 years, talking about how you're getting, more grouping at the extremes. And believe it or not, it's more extreme, or more people moving to the extremes on the left side. I'm not saying they're not moving, because they definitely are moving to the extreme on the right side. But that political siloing is one of the things that's driving everybody apart, which isn't good. More people used to get together in the middle, have thoughtful conversations, but that's that. And the young new hires don't have much experience. They have nothing. They have nothing to tell. They've never had world experience. They've had helicopter parents. They've had indoctrination instead of education, and they have no stories to tell. They lack. They've always been told what to think, and never even taken the opportunity to figure out how to think. They weren't taught how to think. It's kind of a bummer. Thanks, Stephen. Appreciate that. We got a super chat. Thank you, KN Kareen. How are you doing, dear? For $9.99. You love the movie. It was made for family and Hispanic audience. However, because I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it because I have a close-knit family like the Reyes family in the movie. I also love Crazy Rich Asians. See, I like Crazy Rich Asians. Thought that was a good.
It's a good movie too.
And I'll be fair. And again, I really do appreciate the super chat. I'm not Asian, but a little bit. Indeed, you can love things that you're. That's the other problem, right? People try to forget, or intentionally, I think, that you can love something and not be of that particular. Maybe even faith. Maybe you're not that faith. Maybe you're not that that demographic. Maybe you don't reflect that outwardly in your appearance. You can appreciate everything. It doesn't have to be based on immutables. And there was a good family. Again, this is the weird thing about this film. I didn't say it was a bad movie. I didn't say it was a great movie. It's just a movie. It's just a movie, and it does do a good with the family messaging, but almost a little bit overboard, to be fair, which I thought would be hard to do in this day and age. But like I said, I mean, and this is the other thing I love about what we do. We can always try to find common ground in a conversation, and that's why I love everybody that's a part of what we're doing.
Well, I grew up in Texas, and a lot of my friends growing up were Hispanic and Mexican specifically, and even my parents, we all loved going over to the Gonzalez's house every weekend, because there was a party every weekend.
Yeah,
and everybody had a great time. It was always good food. The women took care of us, and we just had a good time. Nobody cared that we were white.
Yeah,
nobody cared that.
I think you're talking about something that I've experienced too. We grew up around different cultures, and it wasn't a thing. It was that's the thing, it's like you were brought into that culture, just like you brought your friends into yours, and that's the way you're supposed to have a cultural exchange, and that's how you reach understanding, especially through food. I will tell anybody everywhere, if you want to have a legitimate lengthy, I should say, not long-term, but lengthy conversation with me of merit, of note, of substance, of standing, do it over a meal, because you can't help but find common ground when you're eating. I don't know what that is, but.
Well, we hung out with Hispanic families. We hung out with African-American families. Our next door neighbors were old school African-Americans from Mississippi. And John's mom would bust my butt just as soon as she would bust his butt. My parents knew that I was taken care of. I don't know when it switched, but I was raised not to even think about skin color. So
the colorblind generation that we come from, we're
Gen Xers, so
it's a little bit different. In our world, everybody was, the same. We
were all struggling.
We didn't divide into boxes then, and it's like, that's why this is such an alien thing to do. And again, all it is a mechanism to divide people. And you end up with parents fighting to, keep their kids, thinking, and trying to overcome the indoctrination. And especially if you're center left, like me. A lot of people wouldn't think of me that way, but you can be a constitutionalist and still be a center left person, because the freedom is a pretty radical idea, after thousands and tens of thousands of years of not.
Liberalism changed the world for the better. It really did. And I'm a libertarian, L, but I believe in certain social programs that people need help with. I think there should be some roadblocks to make people struggle to make themselves better. But I don't see any reason why we can't have programs to help people educate themselves in different career paths once they burn themselves out on one, things like that. The biggest problem that we have is that parents have stopped educating further when their children are home. So when I was growing up, I got my education at school, but my dad and my mom educated me as well. And now I think people have put that on the back burner. Parents have.
I think that's the problem, right? The definition of a helicopter parent is they show up when there's a crisis. Otherwise, the kid's somebody else's problem, and that happens. It used to happen most in sports and things like that. Now it happens, everything. Like, oh no, you're getting a D, you should be getting an A. I'm going to go talk to your teacher. I'm going to go talk to an administrator. I'm going to go talk to the principal. I'm going to go talk to the headmaster. It's that kind of a thing. But I think we can kind of not to get too heavy. I want to move away from some of this because I think something interesting is happening, and this would be actually something very interesting to you as a writer, and I think it's going to stunt a lot of the direction that Hollywood has been going or has been wanting to go. And you want to know what that is? It's AI.
Yep.
So judges recently ruled that AI created art isn't copyrightable. And obviously that's going to give studios a bit of a pause. So a federal judge on Friday upheld the finding from the U.S. Copyright Office that a piece of art created by AI is not open to protection.
I think that's a good ruling, to be honest.
Yeah, it's an interesting one because it's not created by a human. Therefore, it's not, it's not reflective of art. And I get that. So, quite a while through they're liking this or lining this up against the strike, which I understand because obviously it's a trade. But yeah, so the possibility of developing generative artificial intelligence to completely pen scripts. See, and this is the verbiage that is going to give them a way to circumvent this. Completely pen scripts, because
we only used it in this scene.
Right. Or somebody goes back through and edits it or rewrites it or whatever that happens to be. So yeah, the intellectual property law has long said that copyrights are only granted to works created by humans, and that doesn't look like it's changing anytime soon.
Well, what'll happen is that something will happen. It'll be partially AI created. Somebody will sue. It will go up to the Supreme Court, and they will clarify that statement.
Yeah, and this is so the ruling was delivered in order in order turning down Stephen Thaler's bid, challenging the government's position, refusing to register works made by AI. Copyright law has never stretched so far to protect works generated by new forms of technology operating absent any guiding human hand. So there you are. So it won't happen.
A good ruling.
And then he says the human authorship is a bedrock requirement. So now you have a problem, because you're going to have to be able to delineate between something created by human and something created by a machine. And you're going to have humans tied to every single work, or it's not going to work per se.
Hey, did you know that Michelle became a new member?
Yeah. Welcome, Michelle. I truly appreciate that. I think I highlighted that at the beginning of the stream. Thank you, Michelle, for becoming a member, dear. We truly, truly appreciate you. Yeah. I think I got to that.
So I got an email from YouTube telling me that I could start memberships and
really
get paid for super chats, but I can't get ad revenue until I hit 1,000, because I have over the 3,000 requirement for watch hours.
That speaks to two things, Jack. It speaks to the fact that YouTube is starting to see a downturn, number one, and number two, because they made it really difficult to be monetized and stay monetized, by the way. And the second thing is, it does speak to you getting an opportunity to do something, to get some.
I had a conversation with them, and I'm like, I don't understand why because people weren't even getting notifications from it. And I don't understand why because everything you've said that you want on YouTube is exactly what I'm doing. Yeah. Original fiction content.
Yep.
Right. But then you try to copyright claim it occasionally for original fiction. I'm like, and then when I push back and say what's copyrightable in this, they undo their copyright claim.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I don't know. Obviously they always want to, somebody wants to shut you down, or the algorithms overlooking at things or whatever, and sometimes it's because of the music you use or whatnot. But we have a guest waiting in the back, somebody to add in. It's another wonderful high roller who's joining us for the first high roller stream they've ever been on. It's JB's Spooky Review. How are you doing?
I'm good, brother. How are you?
I'm fantastic.
Is it working? Is it working this time?
Spectacularly. You sound fantastic.
Okay.
Well done.
Thank God.
Yeah. But I thanks for being here. Thanks for being a high roller. Thanks for joining us today. Is there anything you want to chime in on that we've talked about so far?
Not really. Except for you guys are talking about the whole like racial divide stuff, all that kind of thing. I just wanted to bring up a story from when I was a kid. So I guess I'm considered a millennial. But the whole race thing wasn't a thing when I was a kid, because I grew up around, like, all of my friends were all different ethnicities, and it was never a thing. So when I was a kid, I would say my 11th birthday, all of my friends were over and we rented 3 movies. Okay. And the 3 movies were Rush Hour, which had Jackie Chan and Chris Tucker. We rented Blade, which starred Wesley Snipes. And we rented Event Horizon, which had Sam Neill and Lawrence Fishburne. Now, if you look at the cast of all those movies, they didn't exactly represent me and a lot of my friends, but that didn't matter to us. Like, we didn't care that we didn't see ourselves necessarily in those films. They were just awesome movies that we had a blast with. So I don't really understand what they're doing these days with the whole push for diversity, because I think it always existed in a way. Like, maybe I'm wrong, but this just never seemed to be a thing when I was growing up, and these days it seems to be something that's manufactured, just to, I don't know, to cause divide and rage.
If you don't have racism, or if you don't have some divide like that, you have to invent it. You have to supply it. I mean, we're actually seeing it in real time, and it's a strange thing. I mean, my first college roommate, and again, it was a friend of mine who was black and was actually a rapper. And it's funny. I mean, it's like my friends growing up were all over the map. Whether they're some Asian, some Indian, some Native American, some African American. I mean, I grew up with just, I mean, we were all friends. It didn't matter. None of that crap mattered. No. And it's really strange. And the fact that that's how they're trying to divide people blows my mind. Doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, like most of my best friends growing up were Arabic, and like me, I'm just white Canadian boy. I'm as white as they come, and like we are all best friends, and we would all rip on each other for, like, I would make fun of them for their differences. They make fun of me, but we were friends. Like, it wasn't with malice. It was just like, we're gonna poke fun of each other, but we love each other.
You grew up joshing everybody, man. Yes. And it's funny. Go ahead, Jack.
Mark and I had this conversation this other day, my writing partner, and he goes, "Do you know how many of my characters are gay?" And I'm like, "How many?" He goes, "I don't know. You'd have to ask them, because it has nothing to do with the story."
That's an interesting perspective. I mean, when you write a character, the character does what the character needs to do within the context of their arc, and their arc can change depending upon the needs of the story. But I think that's just the best way to go about it. But we do have a massive super chat, very generous. Thank you, Kay and Kareen, for $19.99. She says, "I respect your views because you're fair. I would say that pushing a strong family is needed now." I'm not going to push back on that. I think you're right. I just think and again, and from my perspective, it was just a bit over the top, and there were some things that needed explaining. But that's neither here nor there. She says, "I love the heavy-handedness of it." Oh, well, there you go. The U.S. population isn't growing, and propaganda in the media the last 10 years has contributed to it. And I agree with everything that you've said is genius. Honestly, Kareen, you're 100% right. The idea is to make us not reproduce, right? It's easier to control smaller groups of people.
I have across the street from where I work is a group of guys that they buy damaged higher end sedans like BMWs and things.
Yeah.
And they fix them and sell them. Well, they're all Muslim. Then they came over to ask me to use my forklift, and we had a long conversation. And I said, you know what? I'm Christian. I'm studying to be a minister. But you know what we have in common? Family. And he's like, you're absolutely right. We can forget about all the other stuff.
Yeah.
And focus on family and be together with that. And that's a sentiment that's going around all over the place. And I think that's a good sign.
I think it is. And I think the fact that everybody's still struggling to get back to a point of normal civility. I mean, especially people my age, you know, I had a conversation with my mom yesterday about this, and it's like I'm grappling with the idea that you want to always have an adversarial, you know, interaction with somebody. That makes zero sense. I mean, you nobody's going to exchange information, ideas, whatever you want to call it. Nobody's going to be able to take anything up if you just consider the other person you're talking to as an adversary all the time, because of, again, immutables that nobody can control. You know, when you're born, you don't get to pick. You know, it's not a menu. So it's crazy. And
I mean, it's like discriminating against somebody who has brown eyes by people with blue eyes. It doesn't make any sense. We all bleed red.
Well, yeah, and you know, it's very strange, and my eye color changes depending upon my mood or the day.
Mine does too. Mine gets lighter or darker. Yeah. I mean, lots of people are like that.
Yeah, it is weird. BLT says, "Yep, it was just people had a sense of humor back then." I agree. And what's your first thought? WYFT says, "All great movies, indeed."
Oh yeah, I would love to watch that triple feature.
There you go.
Blade and Event Horizon. I love that. That was the first DVD I actually ever bought. Was
Event Horizon's a trip, man. And it was
Event Horizon.
Yeah, Event Horizon.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No,
that's
it's
one of my favorite movies from the horror films from the 90s, and I think it's highly underrated. Highly underrated.
In fact,
I want to do a video on it so bad. Sorry.
I have a story that I'm writing. It's set in the future, and it's a garbage scow that is off in the middle of nowhere, and they're basically looking for salvage, and they run across a ship, and it's called the Slipstream 1, the X Slipstream 1, and it was the story is that it's the first ship that used portal technology to go faster than light that Elon Musk invented to get to Mars quicker. And it got lost during its first trip, and they find it. And it turns out that when the portal activated, something went wrong, and it went to a different dimension and came back, and that dimension was hell. And so it's got an open portal to hell inside the ship.
So Elon Musk opened a portal to hell.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's the idea. I mean, I have a million of these things that go through my head all the time, and all it takes is just hearing a story or something that is crazy that somebody wants to do, and it just triggers something inside me, and I can come up with a story idea.
Yeah. Again, Jack, you just need to write this down, because I mean, I feel like there's a whole bunch of movies in your head. But Philip M says for $5, but the goal of our instruction is love, which springs from a pure heart and a good conscience and sincere faith. That's right. See, and this is one of the great things about Philip. I get a daily inspirational quote, you know, and you know, and it comes straight from, you know, the Bible, you know, and I appreciate it.
Well, that's the thing about the Bible. All of our stories, structure, the hero's journey, it's in the Bible. That's where these things came from. Mm-hmm. Even the Greeks have kind of a similar with their myths and legends. The story of Moses and the story of Hercules starts out exactly the same way, with the mother putting the baby in an ark in the river and somebody else finding it.
Yep.
Exactly the same. These stories were, even the Bible was an oral tradition before it was written down. So there's no telling how old these stories are. If you read the text for Adam and Eve from the Torah, it is a stripped down story like We couldn't remember all the details, but here's the basis of the story that we've been telling each other for generations, right? So that's really why I started studying the Bible in the first place, is because it's one of those sources, like Beowulf, that was an oral tradition that taught us how to communicate to one another, because we communicate through story. We always have. When we get home from work, we tell our spouse a story about what happened today. That is the basis of almost all of our communication.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that a lot of the stories that we've passed on traditionally have been passed on for millennia. I mean,
Yeah,
again, I
yeah.
mean, it's one of those conversations about, how things get from point A to point B. But Darth Plato brings up something that I think is an important subject matter. I've been talking about this for a long time. They're trying to force a cultural revolution in the United States through these mechanisms of Marxism, and family is considered a function of capitalism, which is why it's dumped on in school. Of course, it's dumped on in school, and of course, they're trying to prevent people from having families. But it's also why they're trying to force artificially that there's no difference between men and women. That was one of the first things that Mao was pushing forward during the Chinese Cultural Revolution. All you have to do is go back, and you don't have to go that far back. All this stuff is out there to learn what's being done in real time. What's being taught in schools is in support of the Cultural Revolution. What's being delivered in politics and in law, which is a lot of the laws are illegal, by the way. That's a whole other conversation, which we're not going to go into on my channel.
No,
But
that's
yeah,
totally different. Yeah.
But these are the things that are happening. And so of course in entertainment, in order to change people, they're doing this. And people are always like, well, why are people ceasing to watch films at the cinema? And I'm like, well, they're ceasing to watch a lot of things. You're watching streaming services hit their apex and mature and actually start to go downward. You're seeing people cutting the cord. This is why I made the video I did this week. Everything I do is pretty purposeful.
That video is a good video. It really does outline what's going on.
Yeah, and in service of all of that, I tell people, I'm like, look, you're having people reject this messaging, and they don't maybe understand why. Maybe they don't realize it on a conscious level, but they're rejecting it. So when they cut the cord from cable, they're not necessarily replacing it with a streaming service, and if they are, they're not doing it permanently, because even that streaming service at times will turn them off, and they'll be upset by the stories that are being told on it, and then they'll walk away from that. And again, they may not have that conscious understanding, but in their minds, it's like, this is wrong. I mean, none of this is right. There's a level of entertainment in some of this, but it's really superficial. And that's the other problem. I think, and again, you guys can correct me if you think this is crazy, but I think that what we're being subjected to is that Marxism, but it's got this thin veneer on top of it that kind of, it presents itself as a pretty package, but it's no deeper than that. The depth of it is rather decayed and hollow and
Well, I'm going to tell you the good news.
Raggedy.
The good news is that the Cultural Revolution that happened in China is almost impossible here. And the reason I say that is because our founders built a republic for a reason. And they can change laws. Those laws can get struck down. They can change things. All we have to do is fight back legally through the system. And it makes it so, if we were set up the way China was when they had their Cultural Revolution, we would already be communists. But we have a republic, and it is very hard to do that sort of thing to a republic.
And well, not only that, I mean, the fact that some states are reclaiming the concept of states' rights is a whole other thing, a whole other matter. You could honestly, with the results of an election, cause whole states to secede, and then what are you? You have some coastal elites that are in big trouble.
Well, the other thing is that our education system has gotten lazy. So, like, I was on Twitter. I have a lot of followers, and I follow a lot of unknown authors, people who publish, this book here or that book there. A lot of people, and one of the questions that was asked was, how many adverbs do you think should be allowed in your story? And people were like, as many as you want, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, they're not teaching you. The correct answer to that is 0, but you're never going to get there. Because if you make your voice sound so passive, people are going to put your book down. Okay, you have to have a action-oriented story, and when you use grammatical rules that create what you're doing into a passive tense, instead of doing something, the subject doing something, you're writing that something is done to the subject. That's passive. And if you write that way, it sounds good to your ear because it sounds intellectual, but people are going to put it down because there's no action involved. The subject isn't doing anything. Things are being done to the subject. And that kind of condenses everything down about how lazy things have gotten. All it takes is to buy a little bitty book called The Elements of Style by E.B. White and Professor Strunk Jr., and they go through rules, and it's literally 40 or 50 pages long, and it's just grammatical rules. And if people just go back to using that, a lot of our stories would get a lot better. It's part of the way you think when you're woke. You're very passive. Things are done to you. You're a victim. And that's how people write. And then it doesn't work. Sorry, I didn't mean to make you all speechless.
No, it's just, if you people try to make writing very difficult, and it really isn't. It's taking what's in here, whatever it is that you've been toying with, and getting it on paper and refining it. Nobody's perfect the first time they put words on the page, and that's the process of going through and rewriting until you get what you actually envision. And at a place where somebody else will see what you're getting at, or see the imagery that you're trying to convey on paper. It's one of the skills I'm trying to relearn or reacquire myself. I don't know. I think doing this on YouTube and being able to speak extemporaneously and to engage with others, I think that does help refine your writing talent. But guess what? That requires you having productive conversations with others. And not, again, being constantly in an adversarial position. So I think that is what it is. But let's see, what else do we got out there? We've got a great comic project promoted by Matt G here. Thanks for that, Matt G. Always want to support people putting stuff together. We got great creators out there like Mandy and Jack and many, many more. I mean, we have Mr. Sandberg and his Jupiter book, which I think is extraordinary. There's a lot out there, folks, and we've got people putting pen to paper to make great stuff, and we just have to take care of that.
Hey, and if you've got an artist out there who is looking for a story idea, go listen to some of my stories. I will let you have a story for free to make a comic book out of. Just say, based on a story written by StoryMan-Jack. That's all I ask. I can't draw.
I can't draw for bupkis either. I can do a line drawing for engineering purposes, and I can lay out a house. I can do all of those things. I can lay out greenhouses. I can build furniture and furnishings and cabinetry. But you know what I can't do? I can't draw more than a stick figure, and that's just not my jam.
Yeah, I know. I've tried to teach myself, and I've tried to go to classes to learn. I just can't. I can't take that image that I see and translate it through my mechanical body into an image that represents it.
True story. And Pete Dencat asks, extempor what now? Extemporaneous. It just means being able to speak confidently off the top of your head without a script or anything guiding you. That's all it means. It's nothing fancy.
Which I can't do. So
not true. You do a great job. You gotta stop knocking yourself down. Lester's out on a mobile at a pilgrimage. All right, man. Well, I miss you today. We hope to catch you next month, brother. Hope you're doing well.
Absolutely.
Is Copper here? I didn't see Copper. I see Snowdub in the house.
Hey, Snow, it's good to see you.
And I see Jonah here. Apple TV is junk, by the way. Yeah, there's like two things on there. Oh, there's Copper. What's up?
Yeah, I think a lot of like Amazon and Apple, I don't think those people should be in the movie making business.
Maybe
They're
not.
they're retailers. I just don't get it.
Well, to be fair, Apple hasn't been particularly creative since Jobs died. I think I said that already once or twice this week.
Yeah.
Once they lost Jobs, they lost creativity.
Oh, yeah.
And it's Tim Cook is just about refining a design that Steve came up with decades ago. That's just dumb.
Yeah, it's sad. I mean, think about this. They've gotten Star Wars to a point, and if Ahsoka's not good, they're going to have to shelve it for a decade. Everything. If Ahsoka's not good, they're not going to be able to pull out.
True.
But they're ruining Star Wars, which George Lucas created. But he also, through his work with Star Wars, invented the Pixar machine.
Oh yeah, indeed. Yeah, his work together. Yeah, with
and
Jobs.
Now Pixar is being ruined.
Yeah, well, look, there's a person that I know that worked personally for the Disney company. Recently was chatting up myself and a few others, including Pro and many more on Twitter. And he makes some great points. In fact, he's out on his own now, doing things for others. He's got a sizzle reel out there for everybody to see. But it is one of those things where he says specifically, right now Iger's has destroyed all of the things that came before. Everything he's acquired, he's worked to destroy. And now he's getting around to Walt.
Yeah.
Walt was, because Disney now he's gutting Disney. He's gutted all these other things, and if you're not paying attention to that, you're silly. But he gutted Star Wars. He gutted Lucasfilm completely, or obviously with Kathleen Kennedy's help. He gutted Pixar, right? He continues to gut other things that they've acquired. They destroyed Mighty Morphin Power Rangers so bad that they sold it back to the original creator for nothing.
Yeah.
And so I'm watching this and I'm like, okay, you're destroying these things, and now you're just getting around to Disney. So the first thing you destroy is the very heart of the very first animated full-length feature film, Snow White, with this trash-tastic, Marxist-laden garbage that is not anywhere close to the original story. And this is a historical story, not in the sense that it actually happened. It's not based on real events, but that this story has been passed down in thousands of different ways.
Isn't it a Grimm fairy tale, or is it?
Yeah, but it predated that. This story predated the Brothers Grimm. It predated all of that. It had been passed around primarily as a Germanic story. But it doesn't matter. It had roots beyond that, and it's been passed down. There's an element of the story that had been told all over the place. In fact, the best place to go learn about this is actually one of Comics Division's recent videos on his channel. But it's just this is a story that had been told because it's a form of a parable. It is, it's you're being taught a lesson. That's what all of these things were. They were a way to convey a sense of right and wrong, and it was an idea that told you that if these things happen, these are the consequences, and for whatever reason, again, it's being torn down specifically and willfully. But we're about running out of time here. It was first published originally in 1812. Yeah, it published, but it was produced well before that. Again, stories have been passed down forever, and Darth Plagueis is the 1806 version. Yeah, I mean, it's been forever.
Well, and here's the point. Here's the point of all of this.
Yeah.
We don't want Disney to fail. We don't want DC to fail. We want them to be good. We want them to succeed.
Yeah.
That's the point. And no matter how many times they tell us we're bad or evil or racist, whatever, our point is we want you to succeed. If I would encourage her to go back, this Rachel young lady, who's a pretty young lady, I'm sure she's a great actress, rewatch Snow White with an open mind and really listen to what it's trying to teach you. And I think you would agree with it.
Yeah, I look, and again, I think she's given her talking points, and for whatever reason, it doesn't. In fact, that doesn't even matter.
No.
What matters is what we're all here for, and that is to reinforce the ideas that are wholesome and good against whatever's out there trying to tear it down.
And I'll be honest with you, there's so much content from people I know on YouTube that, like, the only thing I'm really looking forward to now is Joker 2, because I think that Lady Gaga would play Harley, the psychological part of Harley, to perfection. I mean, I watched what was it, A Star Is Born?
Yeah.
She's a terrific actress.
Well, hey, I was singing her praises after her appearance in American Horror Story Hotel.
Yeah,
I think that was a return to form for that particular anthological series.
I love that series too.
Yeah, I mean,
especially the witches. The witches.
I bet you JB likes American Horror Hotel.
No, I absolutely hate that show.
Really? You don't like American Horror Story?
No, I think it's complete garbage.
Wow.
I think some of it is good and some of it isn't.
I don't like any of it. I think it's just trash.
Wow. I would thought the entire opposite. See, I like, know me, I love horror stuff. So it's like,
I love horror stuff, but old horror stuff.
I'm going to say this, JB, if you want to, go on my channel, pull up some of those horror stories and give an honest review, and I would appreciate it. That'll give you some content.
Sure. Yeah, I'll check it out.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I think it's amazing. Well, we're here. Wow, my goodness, Philip, thank you very much. You don't have to do this. This is incredibly generous. Philip sends one of three. First of all, then I urge that petitions, specific requests, prayers, intercessions, prayers for others, and thanksgivings be offered on behalf of all people, for all kings and all who are in. Wish I knew this one by heart.
For it.
All right, we'll get back to it.
Let him do all three.
I do love the Universal. I do love the Universal monsters.
Yeah,
I saw someone comment that I might be a Universal boy. I do love the Universal monsters. So
I do think we need to go back to what vampires were, what werewolves were, what zombies were, what Frankenstein was, and not try to give them emotional. Not try to make them, but they're misunderstood. We've done that. That deconstruction is exactly what is happening.
But that's what the Wolfman is. But that's what the Wolfman is, because you feel sorry for him because it's a curse. Because that makes sense.
That's different
for him.
That's different. But when he's a werewolf, he's an evil being.
Oh, he's just a monster. He's just a monster.
Right,
but you still feel sorry for him because he's not doing that on purpose. Right. He's cursed to do that. He's not going out and killing people because he wants to. Oh, well,
the vampire is a total monster.
That's
he doesn't sparkle in the sunshine.
No, that's not a vampire. Come on.
Yeah.
That's not a vampire.
We are in agreement, totally.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how scary is Nosferatu? I don't find any horror movies scary, but Nosferatu has some of the creepiest imagery that you'll ever see in any movie, period. Like, I love that movie. I'm just gonna say 10 because I love this. I love Nosferatu. Sorry, I was just reading comments from the chat.
The silent movie is really good. The silent movie is really good.
I did a video about a week ago, maybe not even a week ago, on an Are You Afraid of the Dark episode, called The Tale of the Midnight Madness, and it's about basically a Nosferatu, but he comes off the screen, so he leaps from the movie and he's like chasing the kids or whatever. But it's actually, for a kid show from the 90s, it's really well done, and Nosferatu looks very creepy. And it really holds up. But awesome. Nosferatu is just great. I love Nosferatu. So
yeah.
So I didn't mean to kill it.
No, you're fine. It's just we need to wrap up. I got to grab these 3 supers from our good friend Philip here. Like I said, so I'll start again from number 1. First of all, then I urge that petitions, prayers, intercessions, and thanksgivings be offered on behalf of all people, for kings and all who are in. high authority, so that we may live a peaceful and quiet life in all good godliness and dignity. This is good and acceptable and pleasing in the sight of our God and Savior, who wishes all people to be saved and to come to the knowledge and recognition of the divine truth. Indeed. Indeed. Wonderful. Thank you, Philip.
So that's the thing. Everybody deserves a chance to change their ways, but we cannot tolerate and accept evil. So even Jesus said, go and sin no more. So the pushback isn't to be mean. It's to be, this is why you're wrong. And let's work on changing your perspective and seeing things bigger than what they are. And if you're willing to do that, then we can work on things together. But if you're just adamant to be that way, I'm not going to tolerate it. I'm not going to watch your stuff. Sorry.
Right. Right. Well, we need to jump out of this, and thank you very much. And I want to say that Nosferatu is a documentary. Unlimited Power says my first exposure was on SpongeBob. Well, there you go. And Andy Masterson saying great exchange. Indeed. I really appreciate getting to know the high rollers. Of course, I've already known Jack, and I'm getting to know JB here. I it's hard for me not to just call you Justin.
You can just call me Justin.
Okay.
You can just call me Justin. No, it's fine. I know the name changed threw you off. You can just call me Justin. No worries about it.
Fair enough. All right. Well, I truly appreciate it. And for those of you who watched today, thank you for being here, and thanks for getting an opportunity to meet two people who both have channels, both do great things, and check them out as well. Any final thoughts before we dip? Because we're like 2 minutes over now.
You're gonna ask me to talk some more. I'm just gonna keep going. No,
I tell you what,
you can't shut him up.
I'm gonna play a commercial, and I updated the credits specifically for this show. So let me play the commercial to play us out. This is of course for the Mixed Tees Beach Punk stuff that I'm involved with. Cool. We're adding 3 more designs to that collection. One more for the Ken collection, the Kenergy collection.
That's going to be fun.
And we were expanding to a new Fisney collection. So check that out. All right.
I think there's a point chase in Texas.
Yeah, there you go. All right, here we go. Do you have a style? Maybe not. Flair. I hit the button. Do you have a style and flair? A bit of savoir-faire? Well, you're in luck. For just a few bucks, it's not out of reach. Time to get back to the beach. That's right. Beach Punk is now available for a limited time exclusively from Mixed Tees. The Make America Beach Again line is top-notch, top quality, and all about answering that question, are you beach enough? I know I'm enough. Are you? Be prepared for your very own beach off. We've got towels. We've got t-shirts. We've got muscle tanks too. And if you're cold-blooded, we also have hoodies. Not to mention mouse pads and so much more. Check out the ever-expanding line of beach punk gear available at Mixed Tees. Your home for YouTube-exclusive clothing from your favorite creators. From the minds of Dick's Division comes Beach Punk. Are you enough? Uh-oh, I need to fix that. Speaking of fixing things.
It was at this moment that he knew. he fucked up.